All right, let's dive right in. This is for you if you're smart, you're capable, you're driven, but for some reason you feel completely stuck when it comes to building systems. In your work, in your business. It's a super common problem. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly why that happens and look at one single shift in how you think about it that honestly changes everything. I mean, does this sound familiar? That feeling like you're just running in place? It's so frustrating, right? You're a high performer, you know what you need to do, but you just can't get yourself to start. You've got the experience, you've got the drive, but the second you think about creating a system, it's like this invisible wall just pops up. You're definitely busy, but it doesn't feel like you're actually making any real progress.
Okay, so let's get one thing straight right off the bat. This is not a competence problem. Seriously, your intelligence isn't the issue. Your experience, your work ethic, none of that is the problem. This feeling of being stuck has absolutely nothing to do with what you're capable of. It's a clarity problem. That's it. All that resistance, that overwhelm, that little voice in your head that says, ugh, I'm just not good at this stuff, it all comes from one place, a lack of clarity. It's a problem with how you're thinking about it, not some kind of personal failing.
So how does this lack of clarity actually, show up in real life?
Well, it almost always starts with asking the wrong question. We end up trying to solve the problem from way down the line, and that's why actually doing the work feels so heavy and so difficult.
Yeah, we get stuck because our focus is, it's downstream.
What I mean by that is we're obsessing over the tiny details of execution, the how-tos and the what-to-dos, before we've even nailed down the big picture why and who. And that is exactly what creates that feeling of heavy, overwhelming work. And this question, what should I do today? Oh man, this is the classic downstream trap. We've all been there. When you ask yourself this without having the bigger picture locked in, it just creates this immense pressure. Your brain is trying to sort through a million different options with zero clear direction. And what's the natural response? It just shuts down. Overwhelm kicks in.
Here's a great way to think about it. It's like trying to navigate across an ocean using a microscope instead of a telescope. You just can't chart a course by staring at a single drop of water, right? You've got to start with the telescope. You've got to zoom out and see where you're actually going. Then, and only then, can you grab the microscope and zoom in on the details. The reason we get stuck is because we're grabbing that microscope way too soon.
Okay, so this brings us to the absolute core of this whole thing. If we want to get unstuck, we have to completely redefine the very idea that's causing all this friction in the first place, the concept of a system itself. Think about it. When you hear the word system, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's something like a super complex flowchart, or some new software we have to learn, or a monster of a spreadsheet. It just feels so technical, so rigid, and honestly, kind of intimidating. And of course we resist that. Who wouldn't? That mental image just reinforces the story we tell ourselves that, oh, I'm just not a systems person. We start to see it as this separate technical skill that we just don't have. So what do? We avoid it, which, of course, just makes the whole problem worse. But what if we just change the definition completely? What if a system isn't a complex tool you have to build? What if it's just a sequence of questions you answer? I'm going to say that again because it's really important. A system is a repeatable sequence of questions that consistently produces a desired outcome. That's it. That is the entire shift.
So let's make this super tangible. Think about a content creation system. The system isn't really the calendar tool or the project management app. No, the system is actually this ladder of questions. You just start at the top. Question 1, who is this for? Once you know that, question 2, why do they care? Then, what do they need? See how it flows? The how-to questions about format and execution, those come way at the end. By just answering these questions in order, you naturally end up with a great piece of content. The overwhelm just isn't there. So, what happens when you start thinking this way, when you adopt this new definition? Well, the entire dynamic just shifts. That feeling of work being heavy and forced, it becomes light and natural. Just look at the difference in your own internal monologue. On one hand, you have the heavy structure-first approach. I need to build a system. I'm so bad at this, right? But with the question-first approach, it's light. Okay, I just need to answer a few questions. I can do that. See the difference? Building a system feels massive and intimidating. Answering a few questions is something you can do, like right now. It's the same end result, but the feeling is night and day. And this isn't just some mental trick, It fundamentally changes how you approach the work. The overwhelm just kind of melts away because you're only focusing on one simple question at a time.
It gives you your sense of agency back. It totally dismantles that old, unhelpful story of I'm bad at systems. And suddenly, momentum and making progress, it just feels natural, not forced.
And look, this way of thinking isn't just pulled out of thin air. It actually draws on some really powerful frameworks from the worlds of performance coaching and business scaling. You can see echoes of it in the work of people like Tony Robbins or Alex Hormozi. It's all rooted in these proven principles about getting clarity first and then finding your leverage.
All right, so let's bring this all home. What's the real starting point? What's your next best question?
I want to be crystal clear on this. Your breakthrough is not going to be found in a new tool or a better to-do list or some other productivity hack. The answer isn't out there somewhere. It's not in another app.
It's in a better upstream question. That's where the breakthrough is. It's about shifting your focus away from trying to manage the chaos of execution and instead going way upstream to simply ask a better, clearer question.
So I'm just going to leave you with this one question to think about. Don't look for a big action plan here. Just sit with this insight for a bit. What's one area in your work or your life where you've been trying to execute when what you really needed all along was just a better question upstream? Think about it. Where have you been asking, what should I do today, when the real question was something bigger, something earlier, something clearer? Finding that question, that's your starting point. And honestly, it might be the only step that really matters.